Mr. Koluglu, thank you very much for your time, for being here today. You're one of the group people who think that Mr. Zaev and Mr. Tsipras deserve the Nobel Prize for Peace. So I'm not going to ask you, are you a supporter of the Prespa agreement or not? I'm just going to ask you to explain why this agreement is so important for our country, for the region, and for Europe.
First of all, because this is the only good news coming from the Euro right now. I can challenge you, asking you if there are, some other good news. If you ask also Mrs. Mogherini, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the European Union, and we'll ask her, do you have any good news? She will always only tell you the Prespa agreement. So this is one thing. The second is that there's the stability of the region. We are still in a turbulent area, there are conflicts. There is a tension growing between Kosovo and Serbia. So we have to also to solve problems. I can tell you 100 reasons why this is the right moment for the agreement, but also is the best agreement that now exists, is the best peace initiative in the world, and it deserves the Nobel Prize.
Not everybody shares your opinion about the agreement.
Sure.
When we talk about the opposition of the agreement, we can speak about the one in the countries and the one from abroad. So about the Greece and the situation there, why does the opposition that does not accept the agreement? What are the biggest concerns?
The concern is that your country will come to and take Thessaloniki, by force,
Military, you mean?
Yes, I mean something like, there is no logic in this.
In the fears.
In the fear. There is just fear. And the only thing we have to fear is the fear, because they say that the government of Greece and Mr. Tsipras are betraying the country. And also the opponents of the agreement here are also saying that Mr. Zaev is betraying your country. So if
both of them betrayers
betraying the interests of their country, who is benefited at the end? It makes no sense. What they're afraid, speaking seriously, that if we recognize, now it was about the name. It was for 27 years, it was the question of the name, that Macedonia, the name Macedonia, monopolizes, the region. Okay, now we have found another solution, which is North Macedonia. That it says the reality that there is North Macedonia, there's the Greek Macedonia, etc., etc. Now they have found another pretext, saying, no, this is not the question of the name. It was the question also of Alexander the Great, that this is our heritage, and so on. Now, the government in Skopje says that we have nothing to do with Alexander the Great because we are Slavs that they came in the region after Jesus Christ,
Still, it's not enough.
Now they have said about the language. Why you have accepted that it exists a Macedonian language, but this is well known. We don't have. Why you are giving up the Macedonian language? But we don't have a Macedonian language or dialect or something like this to give it to somebody else, And this language been recognized by UN 40, 50 years ago. It makes no sense. There is nothing rational in the opposition. Nothing rational. And the same goes for your...
but they're misusing the feelings of the people, creating this, as you
atmosphere
said,
of fear. That probably then a kind of minority will be recognized in Greece, and so then the Skopje will start to ask, this region where this minority lives, nothing serious.
So you said that you don't see any logic in their actions, but how really dangerous they can be in aspect of ruining the process?
Well, I do believe that we don't have to finish the agreement and then we say everything is fine, because it looks like it's obvious there are parts of the population, sincere patriots, they are not all manipulated by the opposition who has political plans behind their objection, that they are still afraid, they have doubts, etc. So we have to work to be together. We have to multiply our cultural exchanges. We have to multiply, you know, schools meeting, education, change the books
to
in
bring
the,
people
the school,
together more.
You know, for instance, the extreme right and the neo-Nazis in Greece, they incited, they pushed some young students of the secondary school to occupy schools in northern Greece, in the Greek Macedonia, against the agreement. So what I'm saying that it would be much better if the Greek students would meet their counterparts here and play a football match. So when you meet people, you understand they are not a kind of allies, you know, they are not kind of enemies, you know, armed with guns to take your country, but they are
just neighbors.
Just neighbors. We are sharing the same culture. We're sharing we're sharing the same food. We're sharing the same region. We're sharing the same attitude, human behavior. For instance, I'm here with a friend. I'm trying to when we go out in the night, I'm trying to pay in the restaurant. They will never accept me. You know, and the same goes to Greece. If you do that in Germany, you can pay for the whole club. You know, if you declare yourself available to pay, you will pay not only for your company, but you know, for the people passing, or not only in Germany, but I mean in the Central or Northern Europe. So we have the same feelings, and people must discover this, must realize.
And politics must go beyond the party and interest of the politicians and so on, just to grow, and the countries to grow.
It takes a courageous leadership to go on, and this was done very good, both by the foreign minister, Dimitrov and Kodias, but also mainly by the two prime ministers, Zaev and Tsipras, you know, and this is what's happening right now. The major benefit for the agreement is starting negotiations entering the European Union, because your country needs more than anything else economic assistance, technical assistance,
reforms, transforming the society.
Reforming the society, and this agreement will help you. Will help the forces that in the country are progressive, they want reforms.
Yes, and you're part of the European Parliament. We will have an elections next year. Are you concerned about the trends in Europe? On one hand, we have authorities who are promoting these European values and so on, but on the other, there is still some leaders of the countries, members of the EU, who are against those principles, ruining the core of the European Union.
Yes, we unfortunately in the present European Union we have some Gurevskis. There is no only one Gurevsky. We have
it's like a virus.
More than that, yes. And we have also Mr. Orban, for instance, or the government in Poland, you know, and or Mr. Salvini in Italy. This is of course, unfortunately, the extreme right is rising, and this is a reason for worrying. Why? Not because it's not a stereotype, extreme right, etc. But they're against the European integration. They're against sometimes European Union as a whole. They're against Eurozone. And in every aspect of the daily life, we are voting in the European Parliament. They are voting against every positive reform. You know, they are against all this.
How does these debates looks like when you are talking with them, because you're a representative on these progressive political forces? How these conversations looks like? Can you explain that more?
Oh, they can tell you unbelievable things. For instance, they can. I was in a panel, a TV panel with a Polish MP, member of the parliament, and also a French who was. One was very conservative, the Pole, and the other it was from the French far right. They would tell me unbelievable things, and for instance, the Pole would insist that the invasion of Iraq in 2003 was a nice event, though now even the American, even Bush said that it was a mistake. And the French was telling me that the colonization, the colonialism was a good thing, it was very positive. I mean, so you don't have any colonialization. They destroyed Africa, they destroyed, and they still believe that it was a good thing. After the show finished, the technicians came to me and they started kissing me because they said, "Oh my God, you are the only one here in this table. You were logical, So we don't have many things to share with them. They are in another world. They're in the world of the 20th, 19th century. They belong to the past, but still they reappear.
How to transform them? How to help them? Just to bring them on this side.
I don't know if we can help them. They need psychiatrists. But what we need to help is the people. The people that are voting for them. And to change this, why we have this rise? We have this rise because the economic policies, austerity, especially after the economic crisis of 2008-2009, we have austerity all the time, and this austerity is not for all the people. Some rich people are getting richer, but the big majority of the people are getting poorer. They're getting poorer.
The middle class was
the middle class is losing their status, social status, and also there is a sense of insecurity. You don't know what happened to you in the future. Young generations are, for the first time after the Second World War, the end of the Second War, they are forced, they are condemned to live worse than their parents and their grandparents. That's happening first time in the history. Every generation was living better than the previous one. Yes. And this makes people angry against the political establishment. They are turning to the radical nationalism, because nationalism and the extreme are giving simple answers to complicated questions, like who is to blame for your insecurity? The refugees, they are coming, they are taking your jobs, or the immigrants, so all the political establishment are
the globalization in the end.
Yes, the globalization. The politicians are thieves. They're given very
simplifying the political
things.
process.
And now, so what we have to do in order to help the innocent voters, the voters they're not extreme right by conviction. We have to change policies in the European Union. You have to go back to the period of a kind of social justice, of prosperity, having more jobs, and we can do that. There is there are resources available in the European Union, despite globalization, the China, etc. We have proposals. We have to tax to make them pay taxes, get the money, and promote social programs, you know, and different things. We have to have a tax on the financial transactions. There every day there are billions of euros are going, you know, they're playing with a casino. So let's have a percentage of that casino for the citizens. You know, they are getting we have to tax the rich people. I mean, you see, Macron, for instance, now he's facing the crisis with the yellow jackets. Why? Because his first measure was to reduce the tax for the rich, and now he's considered the president of the rich, of the elite. Why he did that? Because he thought that he could do anything. So that's the political establishment. The people are arrogant. They don't care about the people. You know, Macron has been elected because of the crisis. He came from nowhere, and he became president because the established parties, both the socialists and the right, were in a big crisis. Instead of understanding all this, why he has been elected, he followed the same road, business as usual.
Yes.
Rich people getting richer, etc. Now he's facing a crisis. The same goes with Mrs. Merkel, etc., etc. So we're facing also a crisis of leadership. And so that's why it's so important that in our two countries we have personalities like Zaev and Tsipras. They dare to do something good for their countries, despite the ambience or the political calculations and all that stuff. The European leaders are taking into account that. That's why the ship goes straight towards the iceberg, because that's the situation now. You know, I mean, it's like Titanic. European Union is facing, it's under the syndrome of Titanic. They're dancing in the first class, you know, music is playing, and the ship goes directly to the iceberg, unless if we change course and say that, you know, we have to go back to the foundations of the European Union, social justice, solidarity.
You think that the elections will be some kind of indication of the what road will Europe have?
I'm afraid that the extreme right will rise again, more than that, and this should have been prevented, but it was obvious coming 2 years ago, you know, and with the Brexit, for instance. The Brexit was also an alarm. Why an alarm that the European Union is not attractive anymore? So we have to make attractive. How to make Europe attractive? To be more human, to be more social, to be more solidar. All this, they did not take that into account. It's like business as usual. So now we have crisis here, there, and now the political crisis has started from the countries of the south, like Greece, Portugal, Spain, etc. And now
it's spreading.
People, countries of the south are getting better, but now the crisis is going to the heart of Europe, like in Germany,
France.
In France.
Yes. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks.